Sarah was a woman with a heart as warm as a summer day. She always saw the best in people, especially her husband Mark. Their house, filled with laughter and the smell of her freshly baked cookies, felt like a safe haven. Sarah believed she knew everything important about Mark, about their life together. She trusted him completely, like a sturdy oak tree in a strong wind. But one sunny afternoon, as birds sang outside their window, Sarah found a stack of papers hidden in Mark's old desk. They weren't just bills. They were bank statements and loan documents she had never seen before. Her hands trembled as she read them. There were secret credit cards, large debts, and even a second mortgage on their house that Mark had taken out without telling her. Her stomach dropped like a stone in a deep well. As she looked closer, Sarah realized these weren't new problems. The dates on the papers stretched back for years, long before she even knew about them. Mark had been telling her they were saving for their dream vacation, for a new roof, for their future. All the while, he was piling up secrets and lies. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. How could the man she loved, the man she shared her life with, hide such big things? The happy bubble around her began to pop, letting in a cold, sharp truth. The foundation of their life, which she thought was so strong, was crumbling under the weight of his hidden choices. The papers fell from Sarah's numb fingers, scattering across the wooden floor like fallen leaves. Her once warm heart felt cold and hollow, as if a sharp, icy wind had swept through it. Each lie, each hidden debt was like a tiny hammer blow, chipping away at the beautiful picture she had built of her life with Mark. The trust she had given him so freely, so completely, was now a tattered flag, ripped and torn. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring the sunlit room. It wasn't just the money, though that was a big worry. It was the betrayal, the deep sting of knowing the person she loved most had kept such important secrets. How could he have looked her in the eye every day, shared meals, and talked about their future, all while holding back such a huge part of their reality? It felt like he had been living a different life, one she knew nothing about. A deep ache settled in her chest, a pain far worse than any scrape or bruise. It was the kind of hurt that made breathing feel heavy, like carrying a big, invisible rock. She remembered all the times Mark had told her, "Everything is fine," or "Don't worry your pretty head about money." Now, those words sounded like cruel jokes, echoing in the quiet room. Her dreams for their future, once so bright and clear, now seemed hazy and broken, like looking through a cracked window. The world around her, which used to feel so safe and predictable, now felt shaky and uncertain. The pain in Sarah's heart didn't lessen with time. It grew sharper, like a thorn digging deeper. After many tearful talks, where Mark offered excuses but no real answers, Sarah knew what she had to do. The trust was gone, completely shattered. How could she build a life with someone who had built theirs on a shaky foundation of secrets? It was a heartbreaking decision, but she realized she could not stay married to a lie. With a heavy sigh, Sarah told Mark that it was over. The words felt like sandpaper in her throat, rough and painful. The divorce was a long, hard journey. Each paper signed, each meeting with lawyers, felt like another step away from the life she had once imagined. Their once happy home, filled with the scent of her baking, now felt cold and empty, echoing with silence instead of laughter. Sarah spent many nights crying into her pillow, feeling lost and alone. The future she had planned with Mark had vanished like smoke. Friends tried to comfort her, but their kind words often felt far away. It was a time of deep sadness, like walking through a thick fog where she couldn't see the path ahead. Every day was a struggle, a fight to put one foot in front of the other. Yet, deep inside, a tiny spark of hope flickered, telling her that even after the darkest night, the sun would rise again. She held onto that tiny spark, knowing she had to be strong for herself. After the final papers were signed and the last boxes packed, Sarah knew she couldn't stay in the same place. Every street corner, every coffee shop, held a memory of Mark and the life that had crumbled. She needed a fresh start, a place where the air felt new and the past couldn't cling to her like a shadow. She thought of a quiet place, far from the bustling city, where she could simply breathe. Her thoughts drifted to a small town she had visited once, years ago, a charming spot nestled right by the sea. The image of waves crashing gently on the shore, and the salty breeze called to her weary soul. It felt like the perfect place to heal her bruised heart. So with what little she had left, Sarah packed her car, leaving behind the echoes of heartbreak. The drive was long, but with each mile, a tiny bit of the heavy weight on her shoulders seemed to lift. When she finally arrived, the scent of the ocean filled her nose, a welcome change from the dust of old memories. The town was just as she remembered, small, peaceful, with colorful houses and friendly-looking shops. She found a tiny cottage, just big enough for one, with a small garden and a window that looked out towards the vast blue sea. Watching the endless waves, Sarah felt a quiet promise of new beginnings. It was here, she hoped, that she could mend her broken pieces and find her way back to herself. After settling into her little cottage by the sea, Sarah spent her days walking along the beach, letting the waves wash away a little bit of her sadness. But she knew she needed more than just quiet walks. She needed something to fill her days and her mind. One afternoon, while exploring the town's charming main street, a quaint little shop caught her eye. It was an old bookstore, its wooden sign gently swaying in the sea breeze, simply called the Story Nook. The smell of old paper and dust, mixed with a hint of fresh coffee, drew her inside. Shelves overflowed with books, stacked from floor to ceiling, creating cozy nooks and crannies. A kind, older woman with bright, curious eyes sat behind the counter, smiling warmly. Sarah felt an instant pull to the place. It felt safe, peaceful, and full of stories waiting to be told. To her surprise, a small "Help Wanted" sign was tucked among a pile of new arrivals. Without much thought, Sarah asked about the job. The owner, Mrs. Gable, a woman with a gentle voice and a knowing smile, hired her on the spot. Suddenly, Sarah had a purpose. Arranging books, dusting shelves, and helping customers find their perfect story filled her days with a quiet rhythm. Being surrounded by books, each one a different world, made her feel calm and happy, a feeling she hadn't known in a very long time. The Story Nook became her new sanctuary, a place where her heart could slowly begin to mend. Working at the Story Nook quickly became more than just a job for Sarah. It became a source of comfort. A big part of that comfort came from Mrs. Gable, the kind owner. Mrs. Gable had soft, crinkly eyes that always seemed to hold a warm smile. Her hair was like spun silver, pulled back in a neat bun, and she wore colorful aprons that smelled faintly of cinnamon and old paper. Mrs. Gable was more than a boss. She was a patient listener and a fount of gentle wisdom. During quiet afternoons, when the bookstore was still, Mrs. Gable would share stories from her own long life. She never pried into Sarah's past, but somehow she always seemed to know when Sarah needed a little extra kindness. One afternoon, Sarah was feeling particularly down, stacking books with a heavy heart. Mrs. Gable, noticing her quietness, simply said, "My dear, a broken heart isn't broken forever. It just needs a little time to knit itself back together, perhaps with a few new, stronger threads." Another time, as Sarah sighed about a small mistake she made, Mrs. Gable chuckled. "Even the prettiest quilt has a few mismatched squares. It's the whole picture that truly matters." Her words were like soft blankets, wrapping around Sarah's bruised feelings, making her feel less alone. Mrs. Gable taught Sarah that it was okay to be sad, but it was also important to keep looking for the beautiful stories still waiting to be lived. As the weeks turned into months, the Story Nook became a familiar and comforting place for Sarah. Besides Mrs. Gable's kind words, another friendly face started to brighten her days. This was Tom, a man with a warm smile and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he laughed. He wasn't a stranger. He was a regular customer, often found tucked away in a quiet corner, lost in a book. Tom had a gentle way about him. He would often bring in freshly baked muffins from the local bakery to share with Mrs. Gable and Sarah. He loved to talk about the stories he was reading, and Sarah found herself looking forward to their chats. They would discuss everything from thrilling adventures to quiet poetry, and sometimes they would simply talk about the weather or the day's events. Sarah, still wary of trusting people after Mark's betrayal, found it easy to talk to Tom. He never pushed, never pried. He just listened, truly listened, and offered thoughtful words in return. His presence was like a soft, steady rhythm in her new, quiet life. They started going for short walks during her lunch break, sometimes down to the small pier, watching the fishing boats bob in the water. These simple moments of shared, quiet, and easy conversation slowly began to chip away at the wall around Sarah's heart. She realized, with a gentle surprise, that she was starting to make a true friend, someone who brought a quiet joy to her life without asking for anything in return. A gentle spring bloomed in the seaside town, and with it, a new lightness bloomed in Sarah's heart. The heavy sadness that had followed her for so long began to fade, like morning mist burned away by the sun. Her days at the Story Nook were filled with purpose and quiet joy. She loved recommending books, organizing shelves, and the comforting scent of old paper. This new routine was a soothing balm for her spirit. More importantly, her new friendships with Mrs. Gable and Tom were like sunshine after a long storm. Mrs. Gable's wise words and knowing smiles made Sarah feel understood and safe. Tom's easy laughter and thoughtful conversations brought a warmth she hadn't realized she was missing. He was so genuine, so open, that Sarah found herself slowly, carefully, letting down her guard. She realized that not everyone was like Mark. Not everyone would break her trust. One afternoon, as she walked home from the bookstore, a smile played on her lips. She noticed the bright colors of the flowers in her small garden, heard the happy cries of children playing nearby, and felt the soft sea breeze on her face. For the first time in a very long time, Sarah felt a true, deep happiness bubble up inside her. It wasn't the loud, exciting kind of happiness, but a quiet, steady joy. She was enjoying her new life, her new town, and her new friends. The world, which had once seemed so gray, was starting to show its vibrant colors again, and Sarah was ready to see them. She was starting to trust, not just others, but herself, to find happiness again. One quiet Tuesday afternoon, while organizing a dusty shelf of old novels at the Story Nook, Sarah pulled out a thick, leather-bound book. As she gently opened it to check for stray bookmarks, a delicate, aged piece of paper fluttered from between its yellowed pages. It was folded carefully and tied with a faded blue ribbon. Curiosity sparked in Sarah's eyes. Finding forgotten treasures in old books was one of her favorite parts of the job. She untied the ribbon with care, her fingers tracing the old, looping handwriting. It was a letter, dated many, many years ago. As she read, a soft smile slowly spread across her face. It was a beautiful love letter, filled with sweet words and promises of forever. The writer spoke of sunsets by the sea, of shared dreams, and a love that felt as deep and endless as the ocean itself. It was clear that the person who wrote it, and the person it was written for, had a very special bond. Reading those words, so full of pure affection and honest feelings, warmed Sarah's heart. It reminded her that true, deep love did exist, not the kind that was built on secrets, but on open hearts and shared dreams. For a moment, she imagined the two people, long ago, their lives intertwined by such a precious letter. It was a sweet whisper from the past, a reminder that even after heartbreak, love could still be a beautiful, hopeful thing. The letter, a tiny paper treasure, seemed to promise that joy could indeed return. The old love letter had stirred something gentle in Sarah's heart, a soft reminder of deep connection. Soon after, a beautiful sunny Saturday arrived, perfect for an outing. Tom, with his usual thoughtful smile, asked Sarah if she'd like to join him for a picnic by the sea. A little nervous but feeling a flutter of excitement, Sarah happily agreed. They packed a simple lunch, sandwiches, fresh fruit, and those delicious muffins Tom often brought to the store. They found a perfect spot on a grassy hill overlooking the sparkling blue ocean. The sea breeze played with Sarah's hair, and the sound of the waves was like a gentle song. As they ate, they talked, not just about books or the weather, but about deeper things. Tom shared his dreams of one day opening a small wood-carving shop, creating beautiful things with his hands. Sarah, in turn, found herself talking about her own quiet dream of having an art studio, a place where she could paint the beauty of the sea and sky. As they spoke, their voices soft against the roar of the waves, Sarah felt a connection to Tom she hadn't felt with anyone in a very long time. It was like their hearts were speaking the same language, understanding each other without needing many words. Looking out at the endless horizon, Sarah felt a hopeful warmth spread through her. Tom's eyes, kind and honest, met hers, and in that moment, she knew something special was growing between them, something true and good. The picnic wasn't just a meal. It was a promise, whispered by the sea, of new dreams and a shared future. After the picnic, a new feeling blossomed in Sarah's chest, soft and warm like the sun on her skin. It was more than just friendship with Tom. It was something deeper, something that made her heart skip a beat when he smiled. She found herself thinking about him often, looking forward to seeing him at the bookstore, and missing him when he wasn't around. The easy way he listened, the honest look in his eyes, and his gentle humor had slowly, quietly captured her heart. Sarah realized she was falling in love with Tom. This feeling was different from what she had once felt for Mark. With Mark, there had been a passionate rush, a whirlwind of romance that, looking back, had hidden the cracks beneath. But with Tom, it was a slow, steady unfolding, like a flower opening petal by petal. It felt real, built on shared moments, open talks, and genuine kindness. There were no secrets, no hidden corners. It was a love that felt safe, strong, and honest, like the sturdy lighthouse standing firm against the ocean storms. This new love was not a stormy sea but a calm, clear lake. It brought peace, not worry. It made her feel truly seen and understood, not just admired for a moment. Sarah, who had once sworn her heart was too broken to ever love again, now felt it mending, weaving new, beautiful threads with every smile from Tom. This was a love that felt like home, a truly happy and unexpected turn in her life story. Sarah's heart beat a happy rhythm, a tune she hadn't heard in years, as her feelings for Tom deepened. She wondered if he felt the same, a quiet hope blossoming inside her. One evening, after closing the story nook, Tom walked Sarah home as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. The air was soft, and the sound of the waves was a gentle lullaby. As they reached her cottage, Tom turned to her, his kind eyes looking into hers. He took her hands, his touch warm and steady. "Sarah," he began, his voice soft but clear, "I've come to care for you very deeply. You make my world brighter, and I love you." He paused, taking a breath. "I want to spend my life with you, sharing all the quiet moments and all the big dreams." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was as if all the stars in the sky had suddenly aligned. The words she had longed to hear, but never dared to hope for, were finally spoken. A wave of pure joy washed over her, filling every empty space in her heart. This was not a hurried promise, but a gentle, honest truth. She looked at Tom, seeing not just his warm smile, but the true, good man he was, without any secrets or shadows. Tears, but this time happy ones, sparkled in her eyes. "Oh, Tom," she whispered, her voice full of emotion, "I love you too." Her heart, once broken into many pieces, now felt whole and full, brimming with a happiness she thought she'd never find again. In his arms, under the beautiful sunset, Sarah knew she had found her true, happy ending. With her heart soaring from Tom's declaration of love, Sarah felt a lightness she hadn't known was possible. The next day, at the Story Nook, a happy glow still surrounded her. She was carefully reshelving books when her eyes fell upon the old leather-bound novel where she had found the love letter. She picked it up, a soft smile on her face, and carried it over to Mrs. Gable. "Mrs. Gable," Sarah began, holding out the ribbon-tied letter, "I found this a while ago. It's such a beautiful letter, full of such sweet words." Mrs. Gable's eyes, usually bright with mischief, softened even more as she took the letter. A gentle, knowing smile spread across her face. "Ah, this old thing," she murmured, her voice filled with a faraway fondness. "That was from my dear Henry to me, many, many years ago." Sarah's jaw dropped in surprise. "You wrote this?" she gasped, her eyes wide. Mrs. Gable chuckled, a soft, warm sound. "Well, Henry wrote it to me, yes. We were young and silly, but our love was true. He hid it in that book because it was the first book we ever read together. We had a little game, you see, leaving notes for each other in books we loved." She looked at Sarah, her gaze kind. "He passed on many years ago, but every time I see that letter, it reminds me of a love that was honest and lasting. It reminds me that true love, the kind that feels like coming home, is the most wonderful treasure." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes, not of sadness, but of pure, tender understanding. The letter, once a sweet mystery, was now a bridge connecting two stories of true love, one from the past and one just beginning. The revelation about Mrs. Gable's love letter, a testament to enduring love, filled Sarah with even more hope for her own future with Tom. Their love grew steadily, nurtured by honesty and shared laughter. Soon, Tom asked Sarah to marry him, not with a grand show, but with quiet sincerity, asking her to be his partner in all of life's stories. Sarah, with a heart overflowing with happiness, said yes. They decided on a small, happy ceremony, just as they had dreamed, right by the sparkling sea. The day was perfect, with a gentle breeze and the sun shining brightly. Sarah wore a simple white dress and a crown of seashells and wildflowers in her hair. Tom, handsome in a blue suit, stood waiting for her, his eyes full of love. Their guests were their closest friends, Mrs. Gable, beaming with joy, and other kind people from the town who had welcomed Sarah with open arms. There was no big fancy hall, just the wide open sky, the singing ocean, and the warmth of true connection. As they exchanged their vows, promising to love and cherish each other, Sarah felt a profound sense of peace. She was truly loved, not for what she could provide, but for who she was, flaws and all. And with Tom, she felt completely safe, a feeling she hadn't known in years. Their kiss sealed not just a promise, but a new chapter, a happy ending that was really just a beautiful beginning. Married life with Tom was everything Sarah had dreamed of and more. Their home, once a quiet cottage for one, now buzzed with shared laughter and comfortable silences. With her heart feeling so full, Sarah found a renewed energy to pursue the dream she had shared with Tom during their picnic, her art. There was a small, empty shop right next to the story nook, a little space that had once sold seashells and trinkets. It had a big sunny window and just the right amount of light for painting. With Tom's loving encouragement and Mrs. Gable's wise nod, Sarah decided to take the leap. She used some of the money she had saved from her bookstore job, and with Tom's help, they painted the walls a soft blue, built shelves, and hung her canvases. She called it Sarah's Seascape Studio. Here, surrounded by her paints and brushes, Sarah felt a deep joy she hadn't known since she was a little girl. She painted the vibrant blues of the ocean, the gentle greens of the hills, and the bright, hopeful sunsets. She invited people from the town to come in, not just to buy art, but to share stories and even try painting themselves. The studio quickly became another warm, welcoming spot in the town. Sharing her art with others brought Sarah immense happiness. It wasn't about being famous or rich. It was about connecting with people through beauty and color. She had truly found her passion, a creative spark that made her feel alive and whole. This studio was more than just a business. It was a testament to her journey, a place where joy flowed freely and her true self could shine. One quiet evening, after a busy day at her art studio and a lovely dinner with Tom, Sarah sat on her porch swing, watching the stars begin to twinkle over the ocean. Tom sat beside her, his arm around her, and a peaceful silence settled between them. In that moment of calm happiness, Sarah's mind drifted back to the past, to the dark days after she discovered Mark's lies. She remembered the shock, the deep pain, and the feeling that her world had ended. She recalled the difficult divorce, the tears, and the lonely move to the seaside town. It had been a time of profound heartbreak, a period where she thought she might never feel joy again. But as she sat there, wrapped in Tom's love and surrounded by the gentle sounds of the sea, a profound realization washed over her. The heartbreak, as terrible as it had been, had not been an end. Instead, it had been a difficult path that led her exactly where she was meant to be. If Mark hadn't lied, if her heart hadn't broken, she would never have left her old life. She would never have found the story nook, met Mrs. Gable, discovered her passion for art, or, most importantly, found Tom. The pain had been a harsh teacher, but it had taught her about true strength, self-worth, and the kind of honest love she truly deserved. She smiled, a soft, contented smile. Her life now was so much happier, so much more real, built on truth and love, not on secrets. The peace and happiness Sarah found in her new life, coupled with her reflection on how far she had come, sparked a new idea. She often thought about the women she had known who were going through hard times, feeling lost and broken. She wanted to share her story, not to dwell on the sadness, but to show that even after the darkest storms, sunshine can return. So in the quiet evenings, after her studio closed and Tom was working on his wood carvings, Sarah began to write. She wrote about the sting of betrayal, the pain of divorce, and the courage it took to pack up her life and move to a new town. She wrote about the kindness of Mrs. Gable, the gentle friendship with Tom that blossomed into love, and the joy of finding her passion for art. It was a story of finding strength she didn't know she had, and discovering happiness in unexpected places. Writing was like painting with words, putting her feelings and experiences onto paper. It was a way to help her own heart heal even more, and she hoped it would be a light for others. She titled her book, Seaside Serenity, A Journey to Joy. When it was finished, Mrs. Gable read it with tears in her eyes, and Tom hugged her proudly. Sarah knew her story, born from heartbreak, now held a message of hope. She wanted to tell everyone that it was possible to rise above difficulties and find a truly happy ending. Sarah's book, Seaside Serenity, A Journey to Joy, found its way into many hands, offering comfort and light to those who felt lost. But for Sarah, the greatest story was the one she lived every day. Her life with Tom was a tapestry woven with threads of deep love, gentle understanding, and unwavering honesty. Their home by the sea was always filled with laughter, the smell of her paints, and the scent of Tom's fresh wood carvings. They often walked along the beach hand in hand, just as they had on their first picnic, sharing their thoughts and dreams. Tom's quiet strength and endless support were the anchors Sarah had always needed, grounding her after years of uncertainty. She cherished Mrs. Gable, who remained a dear friend and a source of wisdom, often visiting the story nook for tea and a chat. The town itself had become her family, a warm, welcoming place where she felt truly at home. Sarah's journey had been long and hard, marked by lies and heartbreak that had once felt like the end of her world. Yet, looking back, she saw clearly that those painful moments had cleared a path for something far more beautiful and real. Her life now was a testament to hope, a shining example that even after the deepest sadness, good things can happen in the most unexpected ways. Sarah had not just survived, she had thrived, building a life rich with love, passion, and genuine happiness, proving that every ending can truly be a new beginning.